are not present.
Most of the schools, especially more recently, have come out with behavioral threat assessment teams and counselors and tip lines, so that, I mean, it goes back to what was said.
Hello, everyone. It's that time for the J Moore Tech Talk Show, where we answer questions about technology, explain the way they should work, and why they don't sometimes. And now here's your host, John C. Morley. Well, hey, everybody. It is John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur here, and welcome once again to another fantastic episode of the J Moore Tech Talk Show. It's great to have my wonderful co-host here, Marcus. How you doing today?
Doing outstanding, John. How's it going?
We are doing great. You know, I have to tell you, this is an amazing episode. We just keep getting better and better. And Jonathan Miller, who I've been alluding to a little bit, he's actually going to be joining us later in the program. And he is actually the president of the Bergen County Association of School Security Professionals. And he's a retired captain of police. So kudos out to Jonathan. He'll be joining us a little bit later, and you're definitely going to want to catch what he has to say. All right. Now, Walmart is doing something they claim quietly. But, you know, nothing Walmart ever does is quiet.
No. You can't miss the big blue.
Exactly. So Walmart is entering Meta. That Meta space. Yeah, I know. They call it the Metaverse for universe, right. Like Meta, because Meta is the new Facebook, quote unquote. And so what Walmart has been caught with their hand in the cookie jar doing is filing some paperwork on some trademarks on implying to sell things and make virtual products such as sporting goods, personal care products, toys, home decor, and electronics. Stuff that they're going to be selling virtually, not really pushing in the stores.
Mm-hmm.
And so Walmart will be offering consumers these interesting things. They call them NFTs, non-fungible tokens. So that's non-fungible, non-fungible tokens. And cryptocurrency. I don't really like the sound of that, Marcus.
No. Walmart for a long time has definitely drove out other big box stores, and you can't trust them. You can't trust them.
I agree. And I hope they're not somebody that's going to set a precedence for other stores, because I don't think it's really developed enough for everybody to just jump in. So the Metaverse is real. It's for small business owners, and those are the ones that should be paying attention. In fact, the people that are embracing this, in case you were wondering, it's not really our millennials or our generation. It's our Generation Z. Those are our 25, 26-year-olds, and they already know what's happening, and they're starting to invest in it. The millennials have really no interest, and the Generation X's have no interest. So this is going to be very interesting what happens. And we're just going to have to keep an eye on it and see what our big friends Walmart's doing. But I guarantee you some other stores are going to be filing along very, very soon, because it's kind of like whatever the Joneses do, well, we'll just do it too.
Exactly. And, you know, I can't say if this is a good thing or not.
I can't really say that either, because Walmart just jumps on things because they think they're going to make money, but they don't always make money. We'll keep following that for you, ladies and gentlemen. All I say to you is be cautious when it comes to Meta, especially Metaverse. You need to know what you're doing and just don't jump in. I mean, I was never a big proponent of cryptocurrency, and it seems like it kind of died, without speaking out of turn here. And it's because the IRS and the government are putting new rules on all these institutions that are forming outside of, like, let's say, your state and your country. People are going to be slapping fines on others very soon as they start noticing they're making money. They said they were going to be protected, but they're really not, Marcus.
No, not at all.
Well, I have to tell you, I am very pleased. A gentleman I've known for a little while. His name is Jonathan Miller. He is the president, as it says there on the ticker, of the Bergen County Association for Security Professionals. He was an EMT, and he's was also a retired captain of police. He also has an extended array of experience in security. The thing about Jonathan that I like is that he not only has done so much for the community, and he has the spirit to want to be able to take his professional career and really help children, staff, faculty, and others create awareness. And I am just so pleased and grateful to have him on the Jay Moore Tech Talk Show. Please help me welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jonathan Miller, again, who is the president of the Bergen County Association for Security Professionals, to the Jay Moore Tech Talk Show. Well, welcome once again, Jonathan. It is a pleasure to have you on the Jay Moore Tech Talk Show to give us some highlights and insights about security, and I guess things that we take for granted every day.
Yeah, thank you, John. And I appreciate your inviting me on. It's been a while since we were able to connect with this, and I'm glad we were finally able to make this work this afternoon.
I am glad as well. And I know a lot of our viewers are definitely going to get benefit from what we have to talk about today. So, given COVID, Jonathan, everything that's happening, I think sometimes security is getting lax because of COVID. And we're not doing things the way we normally do, or we're getting too tight, but we're missing things. And I think that's exposing not only kids, but everyone and schools and places to this threat that could maybe be a behavioral problem. It could be a physical problem. What do you think about that, Jonathan?
Well, first off, look at what we're doing now. Everybody is all masked up. So we have, if you walked into a store pre-pandemic wearing a mask, I think the proprietors there would have gotten very nervous and said, uh-oh, it looks like I'm going to be getting robbed here, and that's going to be a problem. Now, I think what we're looking at is it's become a norm. We're used to it, but it's made it difficult for us in a school setting to always know the faces of those individuals who are coming into our buildings. For the most part, those who are working security, the working the front desk, they know who is coming into their schools. But now you have somebody who comes in, they're completely masked. You may not recognize who that individual is. So you're stopping, you're questioning them a little bit more. Some people may feel, well, I belong here, I work here. Why are you questioning me? And be somewhat incensed to the fact that they did have somebody stop and questioning them. So I don't know if it's gotten less, but the way that we've approached the security of it is definitely taken a different angle. Security people have had to become a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more using a little bit more ingenuity in order to deal with some of the issues that they have. It's got to be a more hands-on approach and more interviewing before they even are brought somebody into to a building. I know that's what we're doing here in the schools that I work with. It's more of a interview process before that person even enters the first door of the school. What's your name and why are you here?
I think that's a great premise. A lot of times, you might have a significant other, a parent or a relative go to pick somebody up, but the school doesn't know who that parent is. And even with those secure ID systems that came out, I forget how many years it was, where they would scan your license, and that's not 100% foolproof. And then they print a badge out, yep. And then supposedly you go inside. And this all happened because of that shooting that happened, right, many years ago?
Yeah, they've most of these places have increased the security aspects that they have. So in many places, it used to be, let's write your name down, your driver's license on a piece of paper. Maybe I'm going to hold on to your keys when you go for your whatever you're doing within the school building. Well, now it's completely different. Just like you said, we're scanning that driver's license. So we've obtained the pictures, we've obtained your driver's license number, other identifying characteristics of the individual. In many cases, they're doing a double check and they're running that individual through the sexual offender registry to make sure that there are not any other concerns with that visitor who's coming in. So it's taken a big turn. There's a lot of companies out there that have really kind of jumped on it, and there's some excellent companies that do a good job as far as creating appropriate logs for your visitor access management system. It really, really important. Again, a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, it did not exist.
And so our whole landscape is changing to, how we deal with security at school. We were having a very great conversation, I know, on LI not too long ago about cameras. And, there's an issue about cameras. I get that they're important. We both agree with that. But there's certain places they're not going to be. They're not going to be in a restroom. But if they're in a school, are they taking away, which is my concern, people's security? Now, we could say they're minors, we could say it's their protection, but do they need to be in every classroom? Is that getting a little bit too far?
Right now in New Jersey, at least, you do not have cameras in classrooms at all. They're in common areas, in hallways, in cafeterias, they're in gyms. The individual classrooms are not. I think what you were referring to was some proposed legislation in Florida to put them into the classroom.
Yes, exactly.
And that's nothing that's come up to this area as of yet. I haven't seen anything even suggesting any of that. But the importance of good quality cameras throughout a school district is they're used as investigative tools. Are they a deterrent? Yes, of course they're a deterrent in many ways. So that a student knows that if they're involved in a fight, or if they're involved in a theft or something of that nature, it's going to get captured on video for the most part. So that may deter them. And if a crime or a theft or something does happen, we have, like, throughout all neighborhoods now with Ring and similar type cameras, have incredible investigative tools out there that 8-10 years ago they did not have. So our cameras throughout most of the schools have gone from a basic analog camera system on a VHS recording or a DVD recording to terabytes of storage that we're using now with high definition cameras. You don't see facial recognition throughout schools. That's something that's not here yet. But we do have just the recording of individuals for safety and security purposes. Works well.
And I think also, although the technology is out, it's not in schools yet, where we can actually count people, we can count certain things, we can set objects. So we know if that's a person, is that a trash can?
Absolutely.
What is that? And it can cause trips, basically.
So a lot of the software that's out does have the ability to distinguish, and really it's to distinguish between an individual walking into a building that may have a gun versus an umbrella. And if it picks up on a weapon, then it's going to send an alert to their security department to say, hey, look, this is something that should not be, or we believe it to be, could be a false positive. We believe it to be a weapon. It does, just like you're saying, it's learning software. So it's learning the difference between a person, a bicycle, a car, and an animal that's on your grounds. As this starts to grow, I'm sure that software could be implemented to say, somebody's walking their dog on the grass of the school and they're not supposed to, make a proper notification. Again,
there's software out there now that does that. It's very expensive, and it's AI and it learns.
That's right.
So usually within a couple days, the software can literally learn a behavior.
Absolutely.
Which gets me right into another question that I want to ask you. Behavioral threat assessment. Okay. And how it's used in school settings, but I want to ask in a different way. Of course, that's important. I want to know what happens, because sometimes the problem can happen with the student. Like maybe they bring in a weapon, or they bring in something, it could be a knife or something. So what are schools doing? Let's talk about both of those things. How are we combating to make sure students don't make the school unsafe? And what are we doing to make sure that other behavioral threats are not present?
Most of the schools, especially more recently, have come out with behavioral threat assessment teams and counselors and tip lines, so that, it goes back to that's been said a while ago. If you see something, say something. And the
Mhm.
students have been really, really good about that. They come back and they'll alert a principal or a trusted teacher. I saw something on somebody's Snap. I saw something on somebody's Insta, and
Mhm.
they're putting that information out there. The student is doing it. Another student is coming back and they're making a comment and they're saying, "Hey, look, this is making me feel uncomfortable." There's a lot of PSAs that have been put out that say how important this is, and that's the first step. And we try to go out and make sure that as public safety, as public security professionals working in schools, that we want to make sure that the teachers know, hey, if you see a change in attitude in the student, don't just write it off as they may be, maybe an off day for them, they may be cranky. Hey, maybe it is, but talk to that student, find out if they're okay, because something may be going on, and that sort of interaction with that student may bring them to a point saying, hey, you know what, I need some help, I've got some stuff going on here, and before it erupts into some type of a tragic situation. So the behavioral threat assessment teams, they're the ones who will get called in if they find a student who has an issue. So it may be a counselor, a trained counselor, it may be a principal, it may be a teacher, it may be somebody who's part of the the school security professional, and they meet with the student. There's a series of questions that they should ask, and it kind of dictates the actions that they take. It may dictate they just need to speak, further with the counselor, or it may say we need to get law enforcement involved with it. Whatever the case is, these teams are critical in today's environment.
I think it's really important. I know definitely in our town, as you know, uh, police and first responders are very involved with the schools,
Absolutely.
to a point that many of the students, I won't say all of them, but they feel that the police is their friends, and I
Mhm.
agree with that too. I think some people will think I'm crazy, but I always feel if you're on the right side of the law, I mean, they are there to help you, and so I think a lot of people, from what you watch on TV, it scars the students. So how do we preclude that?
Well, first off, it's the right person for the position. So, and the police departments are well aware of this. Years ago, it was, you'd find somebody who just was happy working in a school, put them there, and now it's a much more highly trained individual who wants to be there, who wants to work with the kids, who has the attitude, the proper attitude for getting into the school and really connecting with the students, and that's what they want. This is what it's about: is to connect with them on multiple levels, to be able to talk with them about maybe problems that they have at home, problems that they're having with their partner, problems that they're having in school with
Mhm.
learning issues possibly, and this way they have this individual maybe not connected with the school directly, but in a position where they are able to find a confidant in this person so that they can say, hey, look, I'm having some problems. And this officer, as a school resource officer, is trained and knows how to approach the student and the resources. It's not necessarily the school to prison pipeline that so many people look at. The
Mhm.
officers are not there to arrest the kids. They're
Right.
there to work them to, I've seen many videos that have been posted that, an officer worked for 4 or 5, maybe 8 years at a school, then has moved on to a different assignment, and the officers and the kids are in tears when they've left because they've made so many great connections there, and that's really what it's about, those connections.
You know what it's like, Jonathan? It's like what I call the pulse. They have a pulse of the school and of every kid. You go to the security people, they know what it should be.
Hmm.
In EMT world, we talk about the heart pressure and blood pressure, but in the school, they can sense if that kid's off, and
Right.
they could be a little more, like you said, um, involved with that person to see what's going on and kind of interview them, but in a non-threatening way. I
Correct.
think that's the biggest thing. It's non-threatening. It's trying to just help you. And also they know that if they do get in trouble and this person that's their friend well, what are you doing to me? I mean, I went to bat for you, Jimmy. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
I mean, I went to bat. I told them that, you didn't mean to do that. What are you doing here?
Yeah, they do have that relationship, and in some cases they're going beyond that student, but they're going with the student's family, and
Hmm.
helping that student's family. Maybe it's, they need certain supplies for school, whatever the case is. I've seen great stories with how the school resource officer has really come to the aid of multiple students, probably more so than on the other side, where they've taken that student and they've had to bring that student back to the police station for, a criminal situation. And look, I'm not going to say, if the officer has a commitment and a duty to make an arrest, they will. But
Hmm.
in most cases,
They
it's
don't.
how do we resolve it on the
Hmm.
lowest level, and instilling the trust of that student.
It reminds me of something, being a licensed ham radio operator, that, the FCC doesn't want to police us. So they have a volunteer network of people that actually police everybody so that you self regulate. And they're not there to go after you. They'll say, hey, that's not what we're supposed to be doing. Or, that's great behavior. That's great amateur practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it sounds like you're doing the same thing. You're trying to stroke them when they're doing something great, but you're also trying to give them a change of pathway when they're maybe not doing the right thing
Sure.
that's going to be safe for them or for others. And I think that's important, but it also isn't just with the students and security. It's also with the office and the staff and people like that, because the biggest challenge is when people come in and they're always mad at the office, and then the office wants to break rules, but they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, it's going to sacrifice the students, the school, and possibly put that school in a threat position.
Yeah, look, everybody has their functions that they have to
Hmm.
fulfill here, and without question, the office staff wants to do as much as they can for it. I mean, if specifically if you're referring to bringing people into the building,
Hmm.
look, the schools, look, they're the bigger districts in this particular area employ thousands and thousands of people, and you have each person comes into the school setting with their own issues that they're bringing from home, faculty, staff. So it's just as important for faculty and staff to have a place to vent to if they have a question about something that's going on at home. Um, they need to be able to, speak to, whether it's that school resource officer or it's the school security professional, who has, in general, they're, retired police officers who have a little bit of advantage because they have those years of knowledge as working in the law enforcement field. So, the situations as we've seen out there are not just limited to student interactions,
Hmm.
but also faculty and staff working in these buildings,
Hmm.
um, who may come in with their own issues, and we want them also to be safe. And just because somebody's spouse is at the front door wanting to come in, well, that person has to go through the same vetting process as a student or a parent does. We want to make sure that we're not allowing anybody into a school that should not be there. There may be temporary restraining orders against somebody, something
Hmm.
of that nature. So it's all encompassing. It's not just, dealing with students and student issues, but it's the whole school campus that you're looking at. You have to look at holistically.
That's a good point, because I always thought it from the student perspective and the teachers, but never really thought about it. That's really good about the fact that we don't think about the fact that there could be negative behavior or challenges that happen. And you really got to keep the entire environment safe, or the ecosystem,
Yeah,
not just the students. You got to keep the whole environment safe.
yeah, absolutely.
You're involved in something else. You're a certified Alice, ALI, am I saying that correct?
Yeah,
Trainer. Tell
Alice.
our audience what that is. And I think one of the biggest things I noticed, Jonathan, that you bring to the table is not just your passion for wanting to help and protect people, which is from your police background, I gather. But I think the most important thing I like is that, you have so much experience and so much diverse experience that I think really helps let people see things from a different perspective. People always say, one person said, Dr. Dwayne Dyer, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Mm-hmm. And I think when you give people a different perspective, I think you start opening some eyes, don't you?
I think I come in here with a great advantage. I knew years before I had retired as an active police officer that I wanted to get involved in school security. So I was involved with the schools and the agency that I was working with, and was lucky enough to get into a good school district to work there. But I also took as many classes as I could possibly take to get a full rounded picture of it. But you really don't know what's going on until you're actually working in the system, because each building has its own culture and climate to it. Mm-hmm. And that makes it, I found it absolutely fascinating how, same area, same environment, how we have so many, each building running really kind of differently. All the same goals, all the same direction, but each building kind of runs in a different culture and climate, which is great. So you have to adopt to each one of those. So I take my experiences as law enforcement, my knowledge and education, working as a school security professional, and make that into something that is really usable for the school personnel, the faculty and staff there. I try to train them in a manner that I would find interesting. Having sat through, as many of us have, classes that you were falling asleep at, or you're pulling your hair out because they were so boring. I want them to be engaged with me. I want them to be paying attention, because not only is my topic important, but it could save your life. And yes. If you're, yes. It's like many of us who get on a plane and we really don't pay attention to the instructions. And when, something bad were to happen, here we are looking at it going, how do I unbuckle my seatbelt, whatever. So, I want the teachers to know what's going on. So there are many aspects of the training that I'm sure as a teacher, you never thought you were going to get into. You weren't going to be dealing with, lockdowns, evacuations, and shelter in places, and so on. But it is a reality of what we have to do today. And you have to know it. You have to know where your students are going and how you are going to address it.
And why they're going there? What purpose are they going there for? What they're for?
Buy-in of the stakeholders is 100% correct.
Before we were talking about Alice, which we were finishing. So what is Alice? There's two important things. One's Alice, and I think the other one is it Adam? There are two names I know. One's Adam and one's Alice, right?
So Alice is an acronym for a company that uses it's alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. So that's what the acronym stands for. I don't really want to touch, stay high on the Alice side of it, because that's a specific private company. Sure. But all of these tools are just means to educate your population. And
Adam's the same thing as well. Adam's basically.
I'm not familiar with the Adam.
Adam, model. I forget Adam stands for. Adam is something I know that if someone gets lost in a store, like a department store, they do a code Adam.
Okay, that one I'm not familiar with, but
it basically it's a missing child safety program in the United States. It started in 1994, and I don't know all the details, but when they call a code Adam, they lock all the doors, and no one gets in or gets out until they find that missing person.
Right, and I know hospitals have similar things. It might be a code gray if they have a missing patient, somebody who has got out of bed, so that everybody's looking for them. Our prime concern here is, putting the students on alert that there's a situation going on, and making sure that the faculty, staff, and the students all know what's happening. When I do any trainings with students specifically, and they're looking at me going, "Oh, this is ridiculous. Why do I need to know this stuff?" Because they go to the mall, they go to college, they're going to the workplace. These same basic aspects of what we're training here will be carried with them throughout the rest of their life. Um, Probably about 7 years ago or so, here in New Jersey, we had an active shooter at one of our big malls here, and in Paramus. And I had an occasion. I was still in the police department then to train a group of individuals, and one of them had said to me, "I was at the mall. I was in a store at that mall, and this was an older person." And said, I had no idea what to do, panicked out of their mind. And a younger person there who was working at the store, probably 16, 17 years old, an employee there, said, we need to go and lock down, and took that person by the hand, brought them back to the storeroom, did all the things that they learned in school, and made that person feel more comfortable and safe. It's terrible that we have to think about these things today, but this is the environment.
Unfortunately.
Yes, very much. And so it is something that, whatever you call it, whatever method that you use to remember it, is, if you see something, you have to say something. And if there's something going on, get yourself safe. And when you can and it's safe, call 911, let them know where you are. If a lot of places now are switching over to the ability to text their police departments and to be able to run that way.
And they have reverse 911 too that just came out, I think, a few years ago. So if you dial 911 and let's say it's busy, which it should never be, but if it is, and you hang up on your cell phone, it locks your cell phone for a minute or two, and it will automatically dial back. You won't be able to dial out. It automatically dials you back to another 911 location.
Operator. The technology is getting more and more really just incredible. And they can locate you on your phone if you give them the ability to do it. Some police departments, I know there's some changes that are coming with it, and I don't know all the details on it, but it allows you by opening up essentially your phone, the police department can actually use your camera, and they can see what's going on through your camera. These are things that are not in place in school. There's a lot of regulations in regards to it. We can't obviously stop what the students are live streaming in an emergency situation.
Sure.
We've seen the video from the last shooting that occurred, that some kids, I think, put out on Insta. But these are technologies that are out there. There's technologies that are out there in regards to saying that you're safe and that you're secure in your area, for alerting students, alerting faculty and staff of situations. Many different companies have some really great technology that's being utilized across districts. One of the things that in many places, and obviously with Alyssa's law here in New Jersey, we have to have panic buttons in the schools. And in many places, you hit that panic button, it immediately makes an announcement, it alerts the police departments, and it will put the school into a lockdown. It will lock doors, flash alerting lights so that somebody driving by knows that the school's in a lockdown situation. So one button really does it all. We
didn't have that several years ago.
We did not. It was the ability to integrate those things. While you may have had separate items, the ability to integrate them was not there. It is there today.
Now, what's important, I think, what I'm hearing is not just the technology, being an engineer. I think the most important thing, beside the technology is important, but it's not the most important. I think the people, the training is important, but I think the people are the most important part. And I want to ask a question generally, if I can. What advice would you give to a school that is concerned, or borough, whatever, they're hiring people? Now they're doing background checks. We all know they do basic background checks. What else should they be doing? Or is there certain questions you can share with us that you're comfortable sharing with us about to make sure that this is a good person to bring on board? Is there a couple tips you could share? Beside the background check, I don't think that's enough.
Unfortunately, that's an area kind of out of my expertise.
Okay.
I don't deal with the background investigation side side of it.
Okay.
I know the schools have a pretty robust means to vet individuals.
Okay.
But beyond that is beyond what something I could really speak properly on.
I'm sure it's probably something like an interview process, very similar to
I'm
just
sure.
feeling their motives. Because, like what you mentioned before, they get their license scanned, but that doesn't mean they didn't commit a crime 5 minutes ago.
Hmm.
Like, that's only updated. People don't realize that system is not real time. So it has some updatability. And if something just happened, just to be hypothetical, there's got to be some other intelligence, like you mentioned, people, awareness, how things are going, because that system could come back and say you're green when you just robbed something or you just caused a problem.
Yeah, unfortunately, in many situations, you're not going to know those immediate
Right.
uh, issues that have occurred. But what we're trying to do here is, whether it's through running an individual when they come into the building through the sexual
Mm-hmm.
offender registry, capturing as much information as on that individual as we can, as we properly can,
Mm-hmm.
um, so that if there is some type of an investigation that has to take place, we have the picture, we have a driver's license number, we have the time the person entered, the time the person has left the building. Interestingly, and you mentioned it early on about COVID, through our visitor access management systems, most of the schools are now having individuals who are allowed to come in answer several COVID related questions in case they have to go back and contact trace an individual who's come into the school. If you answer that yes to any of the questions, you were close contact or something of that nature, the system is not going to let you come into the school. You won't be able to check in. Does it answer the question in regards to a crime? No, it does not. But generally, we have to look at historically who's committed these crimes when they've come into the school. In most of these cases, it's not a parent or a visitor. That's not to say that we can't let our guard down, because it could be a parental abduction situation. Somebody wants
Mm-hmm.
to come in and take the student without permission. And there are other safeguards in place as far as the school information systems that are out there, that these systems all kind of mesh together to give us the most complete and round picture of who's coming into the building.
That's a very good point. So we're just about to wrap up here, Jonathan. What advice can you give our viewers about security, or anything you'd like to share with them before we wrap up with you today?
Well, I think from the school security aspect, John, what we're looking at is a lot of there's the physical measures that everybody sees out there. You're seeing security vestibules, you're seeing armed guards, you're seeing police officers in the schools, all of which are important and critical aspects of the whole picture. We touched on it a little bit. It's knowing what's going on with the student, whether it's your own child. Have they changed? Or they become more introverted, more extroverted? Same thing applies to the teacher. Are they seeing a change in attitude and work study habits with that student? They need to report those things and say them, express their feelings to a counselor, to a behavioralist. It's very difficult. Doing school security is really a balance. It's a balance of kind of the science, the physical aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also an art. It's
Yes.
really knowing what's working in the particular area, in your particular school. It's the attitude of the individuals who are working security, and when it's all done from a physical science aspect of it to the art aspect of it, and that melds together properly, you have a pretty safe and sound school system that is not prison-like, and that's what you don't want. You want to
And
get comfortable.
people don't notice the security, even though it's there. They're
That's
not
ideal.
as I'll call it very covert, even though
Yep.
it's there. And I think that's how you want security to be, regardless of what industry it's in. You want it to be there as a presence, but you don't want to feel that it's like a service that you've like there's security around me.
That's
You
right. You
want it
know
to
it's
be
there.
there, but that's it, and you don't want to notice it really.
It's kind of omnipotent. It's out there,
Yep.
but it's also in some cases, if it's necessary, it can be directed in your face, and that's probably the most important aspect of it. It's a requirement. It has to be there. We have to have these
Absolutely.
systems in place. But you want the student to be comfortable and happy, and you want a good relationship between your security and your students and faculty and staff. Critical.
Well, Jonathan, it has been a pleasure. Mr. Jonathan Miller, he is the president of BCASSP, the Bergen County Association of School Security Professionals.
That's correct.
And he has a wealth of knowledge. And I'd like to invite all the viewers, regardless of whether you're here from New Jersey, Franklin Lakes, Bergen County, or anywhere in the United States or beyond, to reach out to us and let us know, do you have a specific security question? Remember, we can't answer questions that are going to derail someone's security. But if you have a question about maybe something going on in your school system, or you have a thought about something, I'd love you to bring it to us, and we'll bring Jonathan back to answer again. Remember, those questions need to be general in nature, and they can't be about what is your school doing? No, it has to be, what would you recommend for my school? Or what should we be do? We're kind of doing this. And I don't recommend you divulging your whole plan. I recommend you keeping it general enough so that you're able to get a feel. Because remember, this is going out to thousands of people, and we're not trying to compromise anybody's security, but we are trying to give people, at least I'll say, the insights to look at maybe what's there, if it's a vendor or something like that. So,
Absolutely.
Jonathan, I really want to thank you. It has been a privilege and a pleasure to interview you today. And I hope we'll bring you back again, because I think security is something that many people just take too lightly.
John, I appreciate your reaching out and being able to kind of express the views out there that people may not realize are going on, and that we have all these systems in place. And I appreciate your time and bringing this out to everybody's attention.
It's been my pleasure. Mr. Jonathan Miller, everyone, also a retired police captain, correct? Yes. Again, thank you. And please send us your comments. I know Jonathan will love to answer them. Absolutely. And tell your friends, because security is something that I think it doesn't matter what age you're at, you need to take it seriously.
Indeed.
Well, Marcus, what did you think of that interview from Jonathan?
Hey, I tell you one thing, I definitely learned something. And if the audience is in agreement with me, you're going to get to hear the same feedback.
The thing about Jonathan that I like is he's very genuine in this space, and he knows it's not just about technology and spending money and getting the latest gadgets. He understands it needs to be a set of policies and procedures, and have good people that know how to carry these things out, because the safety of our lives, children, staff, and faculty are there. And the other thing I learned from him that was really interesting is that we're always concerned about the children, which I agree, that's important. However, we need to be cognizant about the staff and the parents and people in the school. We learned what happened not too long ago at one of the public schools, where they're stepping up security because an innocent bystander came into the school and he started to abuse people verbally for actually having an event for Black Lives Matters. And he was just getting very up in their face. Thus, I think it's important that whether you're a school, whether you're a business, even though John has extensive experience, with schools, I think it's about all organizations and all communities. Yeah. And I like that phrase a lot of people say, which is, if you see something, say something. And they've had that with the government, I think, for New York for a long time. And I just think what he brings to the table is a breath of fresh air. And people, I have to tell you, I hope that many of the police officers, chief of police that I've actually personally invited this week have found this to be a very interesting show, that maybe they can take some of this information and bring it back and institute it in their police department, in their school. And he said something else that was really interesting to me. You have to build that relationship, as we were saying, with people like the kids. And you have to know how to handle behavioral analysis, not throw everybody into jail. The cops today want to actually help people. That's not how it was 10, 50, or 20 years ago. And they want to see if they can help them. They don't want to arrest these kids, but if they do something really wrong, then obviously they have to. They want to give them some advice, some warnings, and they want to kind of be their friend. And the reason they want to be their friend is if their demeanor changes, then they suddenly want to do something to be able to help that child and also protect not only them, the staff, the faculty, and the rest of the environment that they're in. So I think that's a totally new way to approach security with schools, and I think all kinds of buildings, even corporations can embrace this in some form or fashion. What do you think?
Yeah, that's totally innovative, and I think he's ahead of the curve, and we should jump on board to support like many of these type of systems and maybe copy them.
Exactly. So again, Jonathan Miller, I really want to thank you for taking the time to connect with us and to be on our show. And we're hoping to have you back on some future shows when a topic might come up that I feel you could give some great insight to and create an awareness. And because you're doing this right here in Bergen County, I'm hoping it hits home to a lot of the schools here in Bergen County, Passaic, Morris, but not just in our area, but all over the United States. Because anybody that has a school or that has some kind of organization, whether it's a charity, whether it has children in it, or whether it's a company, I think they got to understand, and he takes the approach that we need to be proactive other than reactive. I think that's the most important thing. And that was really enlightening. So I know I learned a lot from Jonathan. Again, he has a wealth of experience from security to being an EMT to being a retired police officer. He's got the knowledge and he's got the experience to help him create the building blocks, and being the president of that organization, which kind of sets the standards for a lot of the schools, or at least listens. I believe he's making a very big impact in Bergen County, if not around the globe, because his stuff is so real and so personal and things that we need to adopt. If we would have adopted some things many years ago, maybe 9/11 wouldn't have happened.
Very true, John.
So again, thank you so much for Jonathan. And incidentally, if any of you are in law enforcement, you're a police officer or you're another type of responder, and you would like to share some things with us, we'd be more than happy to have you on this show. Go to jmoore.com, click on the reach out today, put your information in there. We'll get back to you, because I think it's important that we get views from different people around. Now, this isn't about politics. This is about where do I stand and where do you stand, and why is there such a big difference? Why do you look at the apple green when the apples are red in my bag? So I think we just got to be cognizant of those things.
Absolutely.
So again, my many thanks to Jonathan, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed many of the videos. In fact, every day this week, we actually launched another little snippet of him, and to share with people to get them excited about this show, because we want to bring topics that are home, that mean things to you right in your neighborhood, not out somewhere in another country that doesn't matter to you. Well, that was definitely enlightening, and hopefully something that if you choose to follow will protect, maybe save you or a loved one's life. Microsoft. Biggest acquisition ever. That's right. They bought Call of Duty and Candy Crush for $69 billion.
Wow. This is huge.
And I want to share something else that many people may or may not know. And that is, did you know that Microsoft, I just learned this not too long ago, acquired LinkedIn?
No, I you know what? I heard some rumors about it, but this is my first time really hearing
It's
about
true.
it.
And on a future show, I'll actually show you proof on how you'll be able to tell yourself. It's really buried. But there is a way you can tell that Microsoft does own them. And I think that's why communicating with them is not as easy as it was in the past.
That would make a lot of sense. It seems like they're busy quite often.
Yeah, Microsoft's always busy, and then they'll find some way to charge you. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have got to the top of our hour. We had an amazing interview. Again, a big thank you and a huge vote of gratitude to Mr. Jonathan Miller, president of the Bergen County Association of School Security Professionals and a retired captain of police. Thank you to all the police and to all the security people and all the law enforcement, all the students, all the parents, and to everyone that came tonight to watch the show and those that are going to continue to watch this show after, because if we deliver information that could change your lives, that's what our show's about. Right. And protecting them is something that is definitely paramount on our minds here as a technology show. We're at the top of our hour, so I need to say goodbye to everyone as much as I don't want to. We had a great show. We're going to be back here next week, which is actually going to be, can you believe it? That is going to be February. I can't believe it. February 11th. We're out of January. We're in the second week of February. And toward the end of the month, we have another great guest that's going to be coming on our show. Just going to allude to him a little bit. How to Kill Remotely. A great author we'll learn about. It's something that is very interesting, but something that's not very easy for people to do as a job. So we'll learn about that, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and how that's affecting people, and how we went from little toy weapons to these great big militia items that can annihilate an entire state, country, in just a fraction of a second, like you play a video game. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It has been an extreme pleasure, privilege, and honor to be with you once again here on another Friday night. And I want to encourage you to check out all the great stuff we have here on the Transform You Media Network. You can call us, check our stuff out, but you can check out many of the other shows we have. I have the new Inspiration for You show. And I actually release daily streams that are live every day on LinkedIn. Show us some love, like it, drop by, comment, follow us. Really appreciate that. We're on a mission here to make our world better, one person at a time. And that's by helping you become a better version of yourself and help everyone else become better versions of themselves. Once again, I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It has been a pleasure. Again, a special thank you to Mr. Jonathan Miller, who spent a lot of time with us and gave some very priceless information. It's always a pleasure, Marcus, to have you. It was great.
Yeah, same here.
And I guess we got to say goodbye, everyone. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. And we'll be back next weekend. But if you're yearning our shows, just go watch them. They're out 24 hours a day, and rewatch something. That knowledge might just make the difference to the success or the protection of your life. Take care, everyone, and I'll be back next week. Thank you for tuning in to the J Moore Weekly Technology Show, where we answer your questions about how technology is supposed to work and sometimes why you have challenges getting it to work that way. For more IT support and tips, just text IT support to 888-111. That's IT support to 888-111, and you'll get tips on technology. I'll see you next week right here on the J Moore Tech Talk Show. Remember, jmor.com.